English literature is a rich and diverse field. It covers many centuries and includes many famous authors. In this video, we will cover the history of English literature, starting from the early days and moving through different periods. Old English Period. Let's begin with the Old English Period. This period is also known as the Anglo-Saxon Period. It started around 450 AD and ended in 1066 AD. During this time, the English language was very different from what it is today. It was more similar to German. The most famous work from this period is Beowulf. Beowulf is an epic poem. It tells the story of a hero named Beowulf who fights monsters. This poem is very important because it is one of the earliest works in the history of English literature. Other important works from this period include the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. This is a collection of writings that record the history of the Anglo-Saxons. It was written by monks and covers a long period of history. Middle English Period. The Middle English period began in 1066 AD with the Norman conquest. The Normans brought many changes to England. One of the biggest changes was the influence on the English language. The language became a mix of Old English and Norman French. This new language is called Middle English. The most famous author from this period is Geoffrey Chaucer. Chaucer wrote the Canterbury Tales. This is a collection of stories told by a group of pilgrims on their way to Canterbury. Each story is different and reflects the society of that time. The Canterbury Tales is very important because it shows the development of the English language and literature. Another important work is Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This is a chivalric romance. It tells the story of Sir Gawain, a knight of King Arthur's Round Table. He accepts a challenge from a mysterious Green Knight. This poem is known for its rich language and vivid descriptions. The Renaissance. The next period in the history of English literature is the Renaissance. This period is also known as the Early Modern Period. It started around 1500 and ended in 1660. The Renaissance was a time of great change in Europe. There was a renewed interest in art, science, and literature. Many famous authors and poets emerged during this time. One of the most famous authors of the Renaissance is William Shakespeare. Shakespeare is often called the greatest writer in the English language. He wrote many plays, including tragedies like Hamlet and Macbeth, comedies like A Midsummer Night's Dream, and histories like Henry V. His works are known for their complex characters and beautiful language. Another important author from this period is Christopher Marlowe. Marlowe was a playwright and poet. His most famous work is Dr. Faustus. This play tells the story of a man who sells his soul to the devil in exchange for knowledge and power. During the Renaissance, poetry also flourished. Poets like Edmund Spenser and John Donne made significant contributions. Spenser wrote The Faerie Queene, an epic poem that praises Queen Elizabeth I. Donne is known for his metaphysical poetry, which explores complex ideas and emotions. The Neoclassical Period. In the history of English literature, the Neoclassical Period is known as the Age of Enlightenment. It started in 1660 and ended in 1798. During this time, writers focused on reason, order, and logic. They looked back to the classical works of ancient Greece and Rome for inspiration. One of the key figures of this period is John Dryden. Dryden was a poet, playwright, and critic. He wrote many works, including Absalom and Achitophel, a political satire. Dryden is known for his clear and precise language. Another important writer is Alexander Pope. Pope is famous for his satirical poetry. His most well-known work is The Rape of the Lock. This poem humorously criticizes the superficial nature of high society. Pope's use of heroic couplets, which are pairs of rhyming lines, is a hallmark of his style. During the Neoclassical period, the novel also began to emerge as a literary form. One of the first English novels is Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. This novel tells the story of a man who is shipwrecked on a deserted island. Another early novel is Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. This satirical work follows the adventures of Lemuel Gulliver in strange and distant lands. The Romantic Period. The Romantic Period followed the Neoclassical Period. It began in 1798 and ended in 1837. During this time, writers focused on emotion, nature, and individualism. This period in history of English literature is known as reacting against the order and reason of the Neoclassical Period. One of the most famous poets of the Romantic period is William Wordsworth. Wordsworth wrote about nature and the human experience. His most famous work is Lines Composed a Few Miles Above Tintern Abbey. In this poem, he reflects on the beauty of nature and its impact on the human soul. Another key figure is Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Coleridge is known for his imaginative and mystical poetry. His most famous work is The Rime of the Ancient Mariner. This poem tells the story of a sailor who experiences a series of supernatural events at sea. The Romantic period also saw the rise of the novel. One of the most famous romantic novelists is Jane Austen. Austen wrote novels that explore the lives and relationships of the British upper class. Her most famous works include Pride and Prejudice and Sense and Sensibility. Austen's novels are known for their wit, social commentary, and strong female characters. The Victorian Period. The Victorian period started in 1837 with the reign of Queen Victoria and ended in 1901. The Victorian period was a time of great change in England. The Industrial Revolution brought new technology and changes to society. Literature from this period often reflects these changes. One of the most famous Victorian authors in the history of English literature from this period is Charles Dickens. Dickens wrote many novels that explore the social issues of his time. His most famous works include A Tale of Two Cities, Great Expectations, and Oliver Twist. Dickens is known for his vivid characters and detailed descriptions of Victorian life. Another important Victorian author is the Brontë sisters. Charlotte Brontë wrote Jane Eyre, a novel about a young governess who overcomes many hardships. Emily Brontë wrote Wuthering Heights, a dark and passionate tale of love and revenge. These novels are known for their strong characters and emotional depth. In this history of English literature, the Victorian period also saw the rise of detective fiction. Arthur Conan Doyle created the famous detective Sherlock Holmes. Holmes solves many mysteries with his keen observation and logical reasoning. Doyle's stories are still popular today. The Modern Period. The modern period began in the early 20th century and ended around 1945. The modern period was a time of great change and experimentation in literature. Writers explored new styles and techniques. One of the key figures of this period is James Joyce. Joyce wrote a Ulysses, a novel that uses a stream of consciousness technique. This technique tries to capture the flow of thoughts in a character's mind. Ulysses is considered one of the most important works of modernist literature. Another important modernist writer is Virginia Woolf. Woolf also used the stream of consciousness technique in her novels. Her most famous works include Mrs. Dalloway and To the Lighthouse. Woolf's novels explore the inner lives of her characters and the passage of time. During the modern period, poetry also underwent significant changes. T.S. Eliot is one of the most famous modernist poets. His poem, The Waste Land, reflects the disillusionment and fragmentation of the post-World War I era. Eliot's use of different voices and allusions to other works of literature is a hallmark of his style. The Contemporary Period. Finally, we may conclude the history of English literature with the Contemporary Period. This period started after World War II and continues to the present day. Contemporary literature is diverse and reflects the changes in society and culture. One of the key figures of contemporary literature is George Orwell. Orwell wrote 1984, a dystopian novel that explores the dangers of totalitarianism. His other famous work, Animal Farm, is an allegory about the Russian Revolution. Orwell's works are known for their political and social commentary. Another important contemporary author is J.K. Rowling. Rowling wrote the Harry Potter series, which has become one of the best-selling book series of all time. The series follows the adventures of a young wizard, Harry Potter, and his friends. The Harry Potter books are known for their imaginative world and themes of friendship and bravery. Contemporary literature also includes works by diverse voices. Authors like Chinua Achebe and Salman Rushdie have brought new perspectives to English literature. Achebe's novel, Things Fall Apart, explores the impact of colonialism on African society. Rushdie's Midnight's Children combines magical realism with historical events in India. Conclusion. In conclusion, the history of English literature is a rich and diverse field. It spans many centuries and includes many famous authors and works. From the epic poems of the Old English period to the diverse voices of contemporary literature, each period has contributed to the development of English literature.